Since Supercell has removed the requirement for elixir and dark elixir to train armies, that leaves time as the only limiting resource at this point. Now we're not looking at armies that we can use to triple a base, because obviously you can get all the resources you need there, but what are the most time efficient armies when used for farming? Welcome back to the Clash Tips YouTube channel. Recently, Supercell implemented an update that removed the requirement for elixir and dark elixir to train troops, which got me to thinking. I've always had the troops that I prefer to use for farming, which is just going after the elixir collectors, the gold mines, the storages if they're available. But now that no elixir and no dark elixir is required to train those troops, does that change the troops that I would want to use? Because now that resources are no longer a consideration, time is the only resource that you efficiently have to manage. What troop comps can you train to get as many raids in a short a period of time as possible? And of course, if you're just wanting to get some practice in for war strategies, and if you're wanting to use war-based armies, then by all means go ahead. It's completely free to do so. You can quote-unquote farm with those armies, but if you're just wanting to go after elixir, dark elixir, and gold, there are a few armies that I think are the most time efficient, and I'll show you why in this video. Also, if you want the TLDR version of my thoughts, I did do a YouTube short a few weeks ago on this exact topic. Feel free to go over there and watch that if you don't want to take the time to watch this entire video. Number 5 is actually the attacks that we're watching behind us on the screen, and that is the minor positives. Number 1, a full army can be trained up very quickly. In fact, at Town Hall 13 and 14, it can be trained up in 20 minutes and 50 seconds. At Town Hall 12, a full army can be trained in 23 minutes, and then at Town Hall 11, 21:30. This is actually one of the fastest armies to train, and so if you have time to just sit there and train an army back to back to back to back to back, then miners are going to be one of the fastest troops that you actually can train. Number 2 is they can actually go under walls to target storages, which means you don't have to bring jump spells. You don't have to bring wall breakers. You don't have to bring quad quake. They can actually reach those if they are reachable inside the base. Number 3 is they are actually quite powerful when combined with heal spells, and heal spells is typically the spell that I use, that I train up whenever I'm using miners for farming. What are some negatives in using miners? Number 1, they are relatively inefficient in collecting resources. Typically it takes 2 per collector and 3 per storage, which is a total of 10 and 15 troop space, and there are other troops that can do it much better. Number 2 is you have to use almost a full army to collect all the loot on a base. We'll go into a little more detail on that later in the video. And lastly, without heal spells, they die pretty fast, so you have to use heal spells in order to gain access to some of those storages that are in the center of the base, which at this point in time, spells don't cost anything, so definitely not a negative, just something to consider. Number 4 is a troop that you maybe never would have considered to be efficient in farming, and that is the edrag. Some positives of farming with edrags is one edrag can chain through up to 5 targets, which means if you find a dead base with lots of collectors that are lined up in a row, you can chain right through them with your edrag. Number 2, since they're a flying troop, they are not limited by walls, which means you don't have to bring wall breakers or anything to get over walls because they fly right over them. Number 3 is they are quite tanky, so they last a lot longer than, say, a miner does, as we gave in the previous example, which means they can stay up longer and collect more resources as a result. Number 4 is that you don't need to use a full army in order to gain all the resources, and this is a very important concept to remember when farming. In order to gain the most loot in the shortest amount of time as possible, you don't want to dump out all your edrags on one base. You want to try to use maybe half, for example, to gain all the loot, back out of that attack, and then use the second half on another base. That way you're able to get more loot in less time. What are some negatives in relation to using edrags as a farming army? Number 1, they take forever to train a full army. In fact, at Town Hall 13 and 14, it takes 51 minutes, 54 minutes at Town Hall 12, and 48 minutes at Town Hall 11. Meaning this isn't an army that you're necessarily going to get through quickly, and I would only use if you're on a training boost, or if you're going to have multiple times throughout the day and spread out intervals of time that you're going to be able to farm. Number 2 is you must use zaps or freezes because air defenses and certain defenses do massive damage to edrags, which really inhibits your farming ability. But overall, edrag's super fun to use when farming, and I highly suggest it, so go ahead and try it sometime. Number 3 on this list is actually a troop that I really enjoy using farming, and I use it a lot, and that is the baby dragon. Some positives are, number 1, easy to maintain trophies. There is a certain trophy range where you're going to be able to find the most dead bases at your town hall level, and it will be easiest to gain loot. We'll actually go over that in a future video, but definitely a huge positive for the baby dragon. Number 2 is they are super easy to use. They fly, so they're not limited by walls. You put one down. If one dies to a SAM or a black mine or anything else, you just put another one down. Super easy. Number 3 is there's no need to use a full army. We actually talked a little bit about this with the edrags earlier, but the most efficient way to farm is to not use up an entire army camp of troops. Just use what you need to get the resources from the base and then get out of there. What are some negatives associated with baby dragons? And honestly, there aren't many because they're one of my favorite troops. So I hate to say the negatives, but one is they do die quickly to air defenses, so you typically have to pair them with zaps or freeze. Again, not necessarily a negative, especially since spells are completely free just like troops. But something that I like to do with baby dragons is I'll take 2 quakes, so that way if I can find a pair of air defenses that are bunched close together, then I can use 1 quake to span the distance between them both, and then I can use 2 zaps to take each of them down, which essentially makes it able for me to take down all 4 air defenses on the base if I want, and if it actually works, if it actually allows me to gain more resources and to farm more and to get more loot. The other negative, which I hate to say because I absolutely love my baby dragons whenever I'm doing farming, is they do take a relatively long time to train. They don't take quite as long as edrags, but compared to the other farming troops that we're introducing in this list, they are the second longest farming army to train. In fact, at Town Hall 14, they take 36 minutes, 38 minutes at Town Hall 13, 42 minutes at Town Hall 12, 39 minutes at Town Hall 11. If you are wanting to practice a war-style army or a war-type army with baby dragons, Queen Charge Baby Dragons is a hugely powerful attack at Town Hall 8, 9, 10, and 11, kind of. But I've seen some amazing attacks using a Queen Charge and then cleaning up with baby dragons, so if that's something you want to try, again, super cheap, super awesome way to farm, and you can get some war practice in at the same time. Number 2 is a troop that I have not used a ton for farming, but it is super efficient, and that is the Super Barbarian. One of the huge positives with Super Barbarians is their raged ability allows for quick resource collection. Unlike the Miner, which takes forever to actually collect, you can typically put down 1 raged Barbarian and they can collect a ton of loot in the time that they're raged. The second big positive is that you can train a full army pretty quickly, not quite as fast as a Miner army, but almost just as fast. In fact, when comparing the Miner and the Raged Barbarian, you have to look at the Miner's ability to go under walls and compare it with the ability of the Raged Barbarian to collect resources very quickly in comparison to the Miner, which is very slow. But when looking at the time it takes to actually train a full Raged Barbarian army, at Town Hall 14 it's 21 minutes, 25 at Town Hall 13, 22:55 at Town Hall 12, and 20:50 at Town Hall 11. The number 3 reason why the Raged Barbarian is an amazing troop to farm with is that it's easy to maintain trophies. As we discussed a bit earlier, there is a certain trophy range where it's most opportune to gain the most resources, where it's easiest to find dead bases at your town hall level, and with Raged Barbarians it's super easy to get to 50%, so that way you can get the 1 star and you can go up in trophies anytime you want. There are a few negatives in relation to the Raged Barbarian, and number 1, and this is a big one in my mind, is you have to boost it as a super troop. It no longer costs anything to actually train them as far as elixir or dark elixir goes, but if you want to actually use them, then you have to enable their use in the super troop factory or whatever it is that you call for 25k dark elixir. For someone who's trying to get their heroes up, that can be a big deterrent, so I would only use them if you're planning on having a lot of time to farm. Number 2 on the negative list is they are a ground troop, so they are limited by walls, which means, of course, you have to bring wall breakers, you have to bring jump spells, or you have to bring quad quake, or use another method of getting to storages that may be behind the wall. Again, spells are free to train, so not necessarily a huge negative, but something to consider, as if you use this troop, you are going to be limited by the walls. Number 3 on the negative list is they are easily distracted by heroes. So if you have a king, for example, that's standing in front of a DE storage, it can be difficult to get to that DE storage because the Raged Barbarians are going to attack the king first. And if there are lots of other defenses that are attacking those barbarians, then they can go down really quickly and you may not be able to get that dark elixir. Number 1 on this list, and you probably already guessed it by now, my most favorite farming troop, the Sneaky Goblin. A few positives is it's actually the most efficient resource collecting troop. It's actually coded to collect resources twice as fast as any other troop. Its damage is ×2 when it's collecting resources. It will ignore anything and everything to just focus on resources. I love the Sneaky Goblin. Number 2, you only need a partial farming army, meaning you can collect almost all the resources on the base, sometimes with only 20 or 30 Sneaky Gobs. Using that formula, you can sometimes get in 5 or 6 raids, or even more with 2 full camps of Sneaky Gobs. And number 3, they have a reasonable training time. They're not as fast as super barbarians, not near as fast as miners, but still does not take as long as edrags or baby dragons. And considering what you can get with Sneaky Gobs, their training time to me is very reasonable. At Town Hall 13 and 14, it takes 30 minutes to train up a full army, 2754 at Town Hall 12, 2754 also at Town Hall 11. What are some negatives associated with Sneaky Gobs? Number 1 is they are limited by walls. Just as super barbarians, you're going to have to bring wall breakers, jump spells, quad quake, any way to get those Sneaky Goblins into those storages that are guarded by those walls. Number 2 is it can be difficult to maintain trophies. You can sometimes get the Sneaky Goblins into the Town Hall, and I do that a lot of times, but it's not as easy as, say, Super Barbs, where you can very easily maintain your trophy count, so that way you're farming the most effectively within your trophy range, wherever your Town Hall is. Number 3 is it does cost 25k DE Dark Elixir to boost as a super troop, and this is the exact same as the Super Barb. You have to spend Dark Elixir in order to rent them from the Super Troop factory. So what is the most efficient combination of troops in order to maintain trophies and also be able to get all the loot that I possibly can in as many raids as possible in as short of amount of time as possible? Some efficient ideas are to actually train super barbarians and use them to go up the trophy ladder to find that trophy count that's best for you, and then use Sneaky Gobs to go down in trophies, since it can be difficult to maintain trophies with Sneaky Gobs. Another idea is you could fill your army camps with half super barbarians and half Sneaky Gobs. That way you can maintain trophies and also ensure that you're going to gain the most loot possible with those Sneaky Gobs, who are absolutely efficient at collecting resources. The most important thing with farming is that you have fun. If farming is boring, if you're tired of using Sneaky Gobs over and over again, use another troop. Have fun, try something different. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like. Also subscribe for more videos just like this. Leave a comment below. I do the best that I can to respond to all comments. Thanks so much for watching.